Hi everybody, it's AJ, owner of Hippie Fertilizing, entrepreneur, friend, brother, uncle, and your local soil enthusiast.
My name's Gardy. I'm excited to be here with AJ. We're going to be talking about feeding. I know there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but before we started this podcast, you were talking about, I guess, a different mentality or the title for the podcast. What do you got?
Yeah, Hippie Fertilizing, more than just grass.
Yeah. What does that mean?
To me, it means, for one, when we look at a lawn in the landscape lawn care aspect, we got to look at a bigger picture of not just your lawn, your trees, your landscape, but let's really start to expand out. You live in Leak City, I live in Leak City. For those who don't know, let's just say we live in a big urban development, right? And as we expand this view, get more eagle eye perspective, you see neighborhood after neighborhood and lawn, and you may think that you have 3,000 to 5,000 square feet of turf, but there is 100,000 square feet of turf all around you. And then there is millions of square feet of turf, of landscape, of ecosystem all around you. So on that aspect, it's way more than just grass. Most of us don't even realize we're basically connected to huge watersheds, from Houston's bayous to our very own Clear Creek to Galveston Bay, and it's all very interconnected, woven together. So everything that we do on every lawn affects everything, right? And when we look at this bigger picture, we're like, wow, we're making an impact one way or another. We can help our ecosystem. We can help our environment, which ultimately, to me, helps us with our own health, our own peace of mind, right? We pay to go to beautiful places when sometimes we miss the beauty right around us. We live next to creeks. We live next to, for us, the Arm Bayou Nature Center. In Houston, there's the Arboretum, and we go there to look at nature. But yet, we live in nature. We can't escape it.
Yeah.
So I want us to take an eagle-eye view as much as we can on that. When we do these things to our lawns and our landscapes, and we ask these questions of how do I weed and feed it, right? What are we doing? What are we impacting? Because it's so much bigger than that. But on the whole other side of this, outside of grass, right? I'm a small business owner, entrepreneur. So are you, right, Gardy?
Yeah.
All right. You're here with Clear Life Media. And we've talked before on stuff, and what you have done is so amazing from the last time we spoke.
Yeah, and it's not just me. It's, and like with business or with family or with goals, you try and get yourself with people that are supportive, people that have the same vision as you, where you can come to an agreement on something. And so it's definitely not just me, but the people around, or even, your family. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. One thing that I found, at least in business, is having that ability to shift whenever something doesn't work, and I would say, talking to you in the past, whenever it comes to feeding a lawn, feeding the turf, or feeding nature, you're not afraid to experiment with stuff, things that are outside of the ordinary,
right?
The molasses, the hippie juice, and even I would say that's great marketing from the business aspect, but it's also who you are. It's not, you're not putting on a show, but you'll try something. Is this going to work? And I asked you, like, is this going to work? What are you doing? You're like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Right now,
you're going to see, right?
Right now, I have a thing going on that I posted some pictures. The joke is that it's poop water.
Yeah.
Because it looked really gross. It's actually what's known as a FPE, a fermented plant extract. The idea is to take plant material, and it can be any plant material. I've taken weeds from around my yard and threw them in a bucket, threw a little bit of this stuff called Organics Bio 800. The reason why I use that is because it has lactobacillus bacteria strands, so I'm trying to ferment the nutrients out of the weeds so I can spray them back on my lawn, because I know from homework and studying and my experience that when you see weeds, those things are attracting or pulling out different nutrients that are locked up in different ways in the soil. So I'm like just brewing with this thought that the problem might just be the solution.
Man, that's good. I remember in the past talking to you about clover, and we were just talking, I guess, a couple of days ago about clover again, and some different things. But you were mentioning, this is a couple of years ago, how in that clover we want to get rid of it, or we want to like kill it. But whenever you mow, it's like just keep it low. There's so much. I think it's like the nitrous or some of those things that are in there. I don't know if I'm saying that right. What is it?
It's nitrogen. Clover is in the legume family, so it fixes nitrogen to the soil. As it dies off, that nitrogen will get released. And the other thing that's really important to understand is it doesn't just fix nitrogen to the soil, and this uses atmospheric nitrogen. There's more nitrogen in the atmosphere than any other element, so it's abundant. It's just how do we naturally capture it? But the other thing is it's feeding nitrogen fixing bacteria.
Okay.
And so as I've gone along and hippie fertilizing, that's why I would say I'm not a this or that, a gardener, a lawn care guy, whatever. I like to think of myself as a soil enthusiast. Because when you look at soil, what you come to again and again and again is biology. There's microbes, there's fungi, there's all these other different things that I can't rattle off the top of my head at the moment that are a part of the soil food web that have these cycles, and you can look stuff up, and there's a carbon cycle and a nitrogen cycle and a phosphorus cycle, and it's like, man, it's a whole big cycle that always boils back down to what is different strands of fungi and bacteria doing in your soil. And when you take these things, so one of the things I want to brew is take a bunch of clover and put it in that fermented plant extract, because then that clover also has nitrogen, and how can I make that nitrogen more readily available? Right? Yeah, definitely always trying stuff. So a little tidbit. He said molasses. Yes, it's an excellent soil and plant food. Mix it with water, 4 ounces to a gallon of water. Use a hose end sprayer. If you don't know what that is, just type it in Amazon, because you probably need to buy one. Right? And most brands work. Use about 4 ounces of molasses and mix well with water, so it's a good solution that will spray. But yeah, always trying stuff, right?
Yeah. Is there anything you're trying right now?
So besides the FPE and doing a little experiment with that, there's a brand I'm using, the Organics brand, and I just noticed like it seems like their bioinoculants with their ratios of fertilizer have performed exceptionally well. When you open up a thing of this Bio 800, it smells kind of like apple cider vinegar, apple cider, and soy sauce to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the brews I made, I felt like I did really good because I opened that brew up and it smelled like the product, but a little sweeter. And the food source was alfalfa meal. But now, after 14 years in the lawn industry and 7 years in the fertilizing industry, I'm trying not to try so much stuff because I was trying too much stuff and it was getting real confusing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so like, okay, now I got a little system. I take notes, put in on each lawn, this is what I did. And I don't really even put how much I used because I know I'm following the recommended rates. So I don't really question that, but I do put in the different things I'm using. And that's where I come to the conclusion last year that these organics products worked exceptionally well. Because I tried stuff called Green Trex. Works great. But summer comes. People's watering doesn't change with the summer as fast as it should. So that nitrogen rate can really bite you in the butt.
Mm.
And what I saw with the organics is there was a lot less of a bite in the butt with their nitrogen rate and how their products perform. So
Yeah.
I try my best to put stuff together that's a little bit oops proof because I'm human. And if I'm going to talk about it, I know you're human. And if I'm going to recommend something to you, I want to recommend something that maybe if you do a little extra, you're not going to regret it because I've already regretted it for you.
Right. Yeah, or if you use extra, it's not going to harm you as a person, like your health. It's like, hey, it's important, or harm your lawn.
Yeah.
I know that's one thing. Whenever in the past, I've used, just like fertilizer from the store, like what I see on TV. And it's crazy. You spill too much, it's going to kill your grass. Like there's a spot, like it burns it, literally burns it. And the first time that I realized that, I'm like, what? That I didn't understand that was a thing.
So with that being said, I just bought a little 2-pound thing of ammonium sulfate. I've bought more. I've used it in the past. It's a chemical fertilizer. I'm not against chemical fertilizers, by the way. I'm really not. I just know that there's a huge importance of, number one, read the instructions. Follow the instructions. With molasses, it's natural. It's a sugar. Go crazy. Pour a bottle in one spot. See what happens. Have fun with it. Ammonium sulfate, don't do that. Regret instantly. That grass will say denied, just like you said.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to try here with this 2 pounds of ammonium sulfate that I just bought is I want to mix it up real strong because I want to see if it'll kill Dallas grass.
So what exactly is Dallas grass? I'm sure I've seen it.
You've seen it, especially I think in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's super abundant right now. It grows taller. It grows with thicker blades. Its root system seems to be about 8 to 12 inches deep versus your St. Augustine. You're lucky if that stuff is like 4 inches deep on average, which most of ours are not. So I'm thinking, okay, because anything you try to kill Dallas grass with will pretty much destroy your whole lawn before it'll even touch Dallas grass. And the best thing to do is grab a dang shovel, rip it up. Or if you got so much, it's like you got to rip out the lawn,
right,
and redo it, and then cross your fingers that the installation was good enough to smother out the tiny bit of roots that are left because you ain't ripping out enough to go fully down.
I just had an idea. Why don't we just plant Dallas grass instead and then just keep that maintained instead of being so fixated on St. Augustine? It's like, what's the issue here, right?
So that's a great thought. I actually had that thought myself yesterday looking at a specific customer's lawn.
Be easier to do that.
Seriously, he has so much. I'm thinking like, dude, he could just cultivate a little more of this, mow it, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Good. Yeah, keep it nice and low.
Because the idea in a lawn is you want it to all be consistent.
Right.
And so I'm like, you had Dallas grass, it wouldn't be phased in a drought. Mm-hmm. Floods wouldn't mess with it. You go put too much fertilizer on it, oh well. It's going to choke out most things because it doesn't allow room for other things to grow in the little clumps that it creates.
Yeah.
So ecologically and economically, it would be genius.
Yeah.
Okay. But of course, marketing that we've had for well over 50, 60 years inundated us and thinking that specific grass types are the best. Mm-hmm. And I I don't vibe with that notion. Do I have my favorites? Emerald zoysia is gorgeous, but the maintenance for it, I'm not about that life. I don't want to have to think about my grass every day. Okay, I'm out here doing goofy things, hugging trees and, wanting to make little pictures and videos of like looking like I'm trying to hug a rose bush because sometimes things are beautiful, but they hurt.
Yeah. That's true. That's
right?
true. Yeah. You were talking about the instructions and following like the recommended, amounts and all that. And I'm going to be honest, I'll skim the directions because I'm like, I want to get this done. Not just with lawn care, but just with things, right? I build this Lego set. Okay, yeah, I'll follow directions. But with that, you've brought this up before. If you read the directions on the products that you see for your lawn on TV, it'll go through, do not touch, wear gloves, don't let this get on anything, which I didn't realize. And how many people are actually installing that way whenever they see that commercial and go buy it at the big box store?
Nobody.
Right.
Dude, I was out spraying lawns yesterday. I go to one of my other customers' houses over in Coastal Point, and his lawn's looking really good. It was already getting there. And I go lay down and I'm making some goofy pictures about being in the grass and looking at the strong stolons, and you got such beautiful blades, like whispering sweet nothings to your lawn, man. And I know he put down an herbicide. You know how I know?
How?
Because my elbows were burning. I'm sitting there like this.
Yes.
Like, oh, so cute. And then my elbows are burning. And then I touched it a little bit and my hand is burning. And I'm not really thinking about it. So I scratch my lip and my freaking lip is burning. And I'm just kind of hurt because I'm happy they choose me for their fertilizing, right? But the years haven't changed me in telling people, please lay off the herbicides. I know that people have dogs, you have families. We have, again, our environment to think about. And yet, somehow in the back of our minds, it's still so thick and strong that we have to kill these weeds. And at what cost? And do we even, again, taking that eagle eye view, see what kind of an impact that has on the space around us, all that sort of stuff. And it just, in a way, I was so hurt.
Yeah.
Because
physically on the elbows.
Right.
And
physically and emotionally.
Also, yeah.
Right. I want to do better for this world, our community, our environment. And still people are just so wrapped up in my husband or my wife is bothered by the weeds, or what are my neighbors going to think? Let me tell you something. Your neighbor doesn't pay your mortgage. Okay? Your neighbor doesn't go to sleep with your spouse. Hopefully. So I get the whole wanting to have a nice lawn. I want to have a nice lawn. But the last thought in our heads should be the feeling of what does someone else think of me? You not having clover in your lawn isn't a thing about you being a good person or a good neighbor or whatever. Okay? Do I wish my neighbors couple houses down would mow their grass more often? Absolutely. But them not mowing their grass, does that necessarily make me think that because of that singular thing that they're good or bad people? No. Right. They're busy, they got crap going on, whatever. Luckily they live next to me, so sometimes I just put my headphones on, down a couple cups of coffee, and go mow their grass. But it's frustrating, right? But it's okay. Life happens. We're going to take hits. We're going to have tidal waves come at us, and I'm going to still keep swimming.
Yeah.
But on a slightly different note, in the last, let's say, 3 years, we've had big weather events happen. Freezing, droughts, hurricanes, storms, what have you. I know you've experienced it. I've experienced it. And I have this thought. Again, what we don't see because we're looking right in front of us is, what is the heat doing to the lawn? It's not just drought. I speculate that it's like pulling out carbon, because most people don't know about the importance of carbon in soil, and it's carbon sequestration by plant life, by grasses, things like that. But also, do you know that when you till up land or dig holes, you're also releasing carbon? And as I see the ground crack all around us, I'm thinking, I wonder if it's pulling out more than just moisture. And how do we replace that moisture? Because every year, we're in League City, we're known for the city of the oaks, kind of, and we bag them all up. And that's tons of minerals and nutrients and carbon that mostly we're not replacing. And then you say, well, I got all these roots showing. I have, my grass is dying. My ground is compacted. And I'm thinking, and then we want to blame the tree, right? The tree did this. Mm-hmm. Well, the tree shed its leaves to recycle. Because if you look again at these cycles that happen, carbon, nitrogen, so on and so forth, and soil food web, that stuff would be broken down by earthworms and little arthropods, all sorts of stuff, constantly replacing, to the most degree, its own carbon, its own minerals, its own nutrients, and we take it away. And again, I'm down with a nice lawn, but as we have this nice lawn, would want to encourage everyone to think, how can we effectively replace this? Now we do compost top dressing. It's very good. And I guess I bring this up because as we're still in the season, and we're going to be in the season next year and the year after and so on and so forth, it is springtime, people. Nature is doing something to help replenish itself with all these weeds. And yet we're throwing down a ton of salt and herbicide and like, I gotta kill it. And nature's like, dude, I'm trying to save my skin. Right. I'm like, let's try to work with nature to mitigate that and reduce the use of what we're putting around our homes. Mm-hmm. Right? Because also if we were to reduce the use of what we're putting around our homes, what if we reduce even the need like the next year and the next year? And you see it on tons of lawns. Tons of lawns do look good right now. Tons of lawns look like, let's just say, dirt.
Yeah.
All right?
It's a good way.
Yeah. I have a dirty lawn. And we don't want a dirt lawn. We want a soil lawn. And so let's focus on soil and not the treat and defeat, but the feeding mentality. I want to feed the soil. I want to feed a healthier ecosystem and environment. And also, bro, because I'm the hippie, I want to feed my soul, bro. And all that helps. So let's make an impact and take an aerial view on what we're doing. Because it's not just my lawn. It's not just your lawn. It's all of our lawns. Just like water and air. We're sitting in our spaces, but we're sharing this air, mm-hmm. right? And we can't stop. And it would be really weird to put us in bubbles. Yeah. And I don't want to do that.
They tried for a minute to do that.
Yeah.
It was no fun, right?
What, like a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bubbles and masks and loads and loads of hand sanitizer. Like, dudes, just wash your hands. That was like already a thing you should do.
You should have been washing your hands.
Like, why is this new information?
For you, when and why did this passion start?
When I was younger, I kind of had this very vague thought of wanting to be an environmental engineer, mostly because you add the title of an engineer to something and it sounds kind of cool, prestigious maybe, but I really have always had an interest for the environment, for water. I used to volunteer as a kid at the Arm Bayou Nature Center with my grandmother. I would go in summers up in Kerrville. Grandpa lives on top of a hill tons of trees around, quiet, beautiful night sky. So I got to experience that stuff. And I think in some way it really impacted how I saw it and felt about it. And I've always had a fascination for water. But then I'm 22 years old, get home from Army Reserve training, and thought to myself, I want to be in landscaping because I can learn as I go. Whew, there's a lot to learn, people. And mowing grass, doing that sort of stuff, a few customers asked, hey, can you put down some weed and feed? I did. I have used weed and feed, people, okay? And more than I'd like to admit. Again, summers come, they get hot. I don't understand the product at the time. I was young and foolish. I wasn't reading no directions, you know? Put it in. What does the Scott setting say? Psh, throw it on. Don't know what to tell the customer. Burn the lawn. I was like, oh, crap. I'm not doing this. Found some organic fertilizer, put it down, middle of summertime. Then I had a little bit more sense to tell the customer, water the grass. It helped tremendously. But what really set it in stone for me was one year, one of my dad's buddies who was hiring me to mow his grass and everything said, hey, AJ, can you kill the weeds? I bought some stuff you could just buy at the local garden center, right? I did not read all the instructions. I put the stuff down, and I tell you what, within a day or so, very short amount of time, I had nosebleeds, I had headaches, I had nausea, I felt like I was a little twitchy. And then I go back and I read the instructions, and it says you're supposed to be covered from head to toe, even some sort of thing covering your mouth, goggles, gloves. I didn't wear any of that, dude. And I know most people are not. And I got sick. I don't get headaches, man. Nosebleeds are not a normal thing for me. Nausea is not a normal thing for me. None of this is not anything normal. I've never had a headache, fortunately, in my life at this point. Now, as an older adult, I've had a few. I feel your pain on a migraine. Mm-hmm. But it's still few and far between. So when those things happened and I read the instructions, I was like, wow, this is bad. Because also, going back to the tidbit of just getting home from basic training, they still had like biohazard training in mop suits and a gas mask. I think they don't do any of that anymore. But they did, and back in that training with that gas mask, you know, you got some drill sergeant all up in your face. Like, you don't realize the importance. If we tell you to don this mask, that means you could freaking die from something you can't even smell, right? Mm-hmm. And that never left my thoughts, because they make you go through this room with like CS gas and it burns everything, and then you put on this mask and you're like, wow, I can breathe and my eyes aren't burning. And so they really immerse you in this full experience. So I'm glad, because it gave me the weight and the gravity of the importance of how these things work. So when I read on those instructions that I'm supposed to put something over my mouth to reduce the intake of what I'm spraying, it's like, this crap must be nasty, right? This isn't going and spraying some Dawn dish soap and vinegar on your lawn. These are freaking harsh chemicals, right? That blows my mind, especially as the talk of environmental health and going green has become more of a thing, that you can still buy these basically environmentally hazardous things and just spray them in abundance everywhere. But that set it in stone for me. Once I got sick, and a little tidbit is half my family honestly has died from cancer. Right? Grandma died from lung cancer. Their parents died from lung cancer. My grandpa died from like leukemia. And quite honestly, kind of side note, it just seemed like they got treated to death. And so I'm looking at, you go look up, just even barely do a search on studies on herbicides and how it can be an endocrine disruptor. It messes with your nervous system. It messes with your gut biome, which has inflammation issues, and this can be a contributing factor to all this stuff. And I look at this just like when I touched it the other day and my skin is burning. If that doesn't tell you something about how freaking nasty something is, then what will? And so I don't want to use it, and I don't want to promote it, and I don't want to promote this weed-free thing when I've heard so many times customers or other people like, yeah, my daughter was in the lawn and picking out, clover flowers. And then they're telling me, how can I kill the clover? I'm like, dude, your daughter didn't care. Maybe you should take notes from your 3-year-old about how important that clover was, right? She saw the beautiful little flower, and you're seeing a weed. And the only reason you're seeing a weed sometimes is because that's what you were told to see. Mm-hmm. We're talking millions of dollars in marketing to sell products that we don't need. You need to breathe. You need to drink water, exercise, sleep. You don't need to kill a weed, dude. Mm-hmm. So it gets me because I don't want no little 3-year-old getting hurt from some crap that I put down, or your new little puppy who's sniffing everything to get sick and to go into convulsions. And you think I'm being extra when I say this, but no, this stuff happens, right? And then people are like, what happened to my dog? I don't even know.
It's a part of the family too.
Yeah. And I don't want to contribute to that at all.
Yes.
We got enough stuff. So, okay, whatever. I'm off that soapbox.
It's good. It's important. It's important information.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, what is your hope for this podcast, or where do you envision it going?
I envision it opening up conversations with people in a different way that allows more and more people to ask the different question of, how do I feed my lawn? How do I approach this? Because in 14 years of lawn care, the question hasn't changed. How do I kill the weeds? Okay? And it's not how do I kill the weeds. It's how do I feed the lawn? How do I support my turf? How do I support soil biology? How can I have a healthier landscape? How can we shift? I want to encourage everyone to shift this idea and paradigm of what is healthy. Mm-hmm. Because just like with our looks, right? Looks can be deceiving.
Right.
See some big dude, right? You don't know if he's got like heart palpitations and stuff, right? Or you see someone that may not look super healthy, and according to their metrics, like blood pressure and stuff, that'd be healthier than anybody, but you'd be surprised. And that's kind of, lawn care life. It's like that. And I want to open that up to people to help share a different perspective and ask different questions instead of the same question.
That's good.
How do I kill the weeds?
All right, AJ, tell them what's the name of the podcast and how can they follow you on social media and find out more information about what's coming up.
Hippie Fertilizing. More than just grass. Check us out on Facebook.com/Hippie Fertilizing. I believe it's YouTube.com/Hippie Fertilizing. Basically, I'm the only one in the nation, so you could just search Hippie Fertilizing and you're going to find Hippie Fertilizing. And as we end, yes, it's more than just grass, but no, nobody knows grass like a hippie.